La-di-da, la-di-da. I don't know how my sound is. There's my dog. My dog is shedding. He's blowing a coat. I got a Pembroke Welsh Corgi. You can hear him in the background because he's so low to the ground that he's shedding right into his throat. So if you hear him in the background going, that's why. Anywho. So what I want to do is test myself. What the hell is that? There it is. I want to just randomly pick a Rich Prater video and do a reaction on it. Let's see. So I'm going to go to his channel. YouTube. No, I don't want that. Okay. RJP. I'm not doing this to be a shithead towards Rich, but you know, that's what I do. Is I stop to lies. Episode 58. Let's see. Let's just start. I want to start with a little bit on Rich when he first introduced himself here 4 years ago. And remember, Rich wasn't around 4 years. You know, he wasn't around before that. And he didn't see a lot of stuff. I will tell you about my reaction on his last video is they never talked about Beijing like that until I brought her up, until I had her on interview. So he was doing, in my opinion, he was doing a little bit of damage control because that video that I did with Beijing was very damaging. And they are glad it doesn't exist anymore. But let's see. Now, Rich, you shouldn't be mad at me doing a reaction video. I mean, if you don't like it, you can send me a copyright strike. That's cool. But I personally don't care because I don't think you would care. I mean, because what you're telling is the truth on here. So let's take a look. I want to present. Da-di-da-di-da. I just want to see what he has to say first, and I'm going to go through each and every one of his videos and do a reaction to them at some point or another. That's what's going to be my content, unless, of course, someone does something somewhere else. Let me see. That's going to be my content from here on out. So I'm going to pick it, and we're going to introduce ourselves to Rich Prater, and he's going to. And I have nothing against him. I'm not trying to be mean to him. It's just that I've been friendly with him the whole time he's been coming live, and I never knew how his views actually were. So I feel like I should do this. No offense. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm going to do it in the most respectful way I can. Let's see here. What do we got? This is how Rich introduced himself to us.
Want to see insults or anything of that nature to anybody.
Hang on.
And I look forward very much.
Can we go back and go right? And I'll be the screen viewer.
Okay, I am now live. And I wanted this opportunity to welcome anybody who wanted to join me here. I'm going to start doing a podcast every Saturday night in reference to the Darlie Routier case. Every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I want to make it very clear from the beginning and the get-go that I do not in any way want to see insults or...
I don't want to see insults. Toby Shook's an idiot, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Okay, not going to do insults. Okay.
Anything of that nature to anybody. And
to anybody. And 20 episodes later, he said, Toby Shook's an idiot, but I'm not going to get into that. Okay. And that Barry Fife is a shady character. Yeah. I've only went through one of his videos. I've skimmed through them before, but I figured through talking to him on the phone sometimes and in text that I knew where he stood. He didn't do this type of shit.
I look forward very much to digging into this case with each and every one of you. I do believe that Darlie Routier is innocent, and I want to be dealing with facts and not speculation.
You want to be dealing with facts and not speculation. Okay, Rich? I heard from a source, a very good source. Well, somebody told me that Beja wasn't a very good employee. Barry Feist had a huge rap sheet, never showed it. Beja had some mental. You said, I don't know, and I've never met her. So, but somebody told me that Beja. Okay, so you start out by going against your own rules.
And I can assure everybody that I will not allow people to get insulted.
Toby Shook's an idiot. But he's not there to defend himself, so I can understand that.
I also let Darlie Key know that I will not allow her to be insulted. I've
That's fair.
had the pleasure of talking to Darlie Key, and it was a very enjoyable conversation, even though it was on a tragic subject. And I really enjoyed talking to Darlie Key. I thought she was an incredible woman. I really did. And let's see. So far, I've got 2 people in here. Does anybody care to share their views on how they feel about the Darlie Routier case? Do you believe that Darlie Routier is innocent, or do you believe that she is guilty? Does anybody care to start a chat? There are 2 people in the room.
Well, sometimes it starts off slow. There's nothing funny about it. I don't think he smokes anymore. Hey, that's a good thing, Rich. If you don't smoke anymore, quit.
Does anybody have any personal questions that they might want to ask me, such as maybe how I got involved in the case, why I investigated, why the case is important to me?
Now, look, I want to stop.
Okay, Bonnie Stone says Darlie is innocent. I agree with Bonnie.
Hi, perfect blind guy. That's
so, Bonnie, is there anything you want to share on that?
Literally. Watch this. Hang on.
I mean, if you believe that,
I want to stop
she's innocent, something had to be.
I want to stop the video. I want you guys to see my hands. See, my hands are up in the air, right? There's no way I could be typing anything right now. They're in front of the camera, right? Perfect blind guy. Type something in. Put something in. He's not going to do it now. Look, put something in, perfect blind guy. I stopped this whole thing for you. I wanted to show because I can't type with my hands in the air. Comment. Type a comment in. He's not going to do it now. He's not going to be doing it. My hands are in the air. But they literally think that perfect blind guy is me, and it's not me. I have no idea who that is. They think it's me talking to myself and try to prove that it ain't me. They won't do it. There you go. Just typed in what? See it in my chat there? You can't do that with your hands moving. Say hi, perfect blind guy. Say hello. He won't do it now. You shithead. They think I'm him, and I'm not him. There's absolutely no way that you can type in what in your chat. There it is. See, look. See? See him typing in? My hands are right here. That's not me. Okay, thank you. All right, let's go back to the thank you, perfect blind guy. That's not me. I don't make chats and talk to myself. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going through each and every one of Rich's videos. We'll do my reaction on him civilly, and we're gonna start from the first one and go. But my thing is, he first said that there's going to be no disrespect, no insults to nobody. Okay.
Make you believe that. How well have you looked at the evidence or read the transcripts, or how well have you dug into the case, or maybe talked to people that were surrounding the case?
He doesn't do that anymore. I quit smoking to do that.
Maybe we should start with a little bit of history on myself. The people that know me and know how I follow this case, you already know the answer to a lot of this, but I got involved studying the Darlie case due to the fact of, first of all, if you don't know me, let me let you in on this. I investigate crime cases, especially those that are highly contested or in question. And I do that for personal reasons, for people.
Now, this is not something that me and Rich have never talked about, him being a private investigator. People kept saying he's a private investigator. But me and Rich have never talked about any type of investigations. I've heard that people say this, and I was wondering where they got it from. He did not say he was a private investigator. He said he was an investigator. Anybody can be an investigator, but he didn't say that. So I want to let it play and find out what's going on.
People that in the past that I have lost due to tragedies and so on and so forth. And one indeed was murdered and savagely raped. So what I like to do is, I guess, for justice for them where justice really wasn't served, in my opinion, I try to help others with that. And I don't do it for a profit. I don't do it.
He doesn't do it for money. I know that. He's not worried about money. But he keeps saying he wants to do it for other people. But he only talks about Darlie. And when I stood for Darlie's innocence, I was also standing for a lot of other people's innocence on my channel. And that's what I was doing, is trying to stick up for victims of crimes, mostly children, and the innocence of people that I felt were wrongly convicted, like Hannah Overton. And some people don't agree with me. Some people in my Darlie groups, they don't agree with me. Like Cameron Todd Willingham, I feel like he was innocent. I felt like David Cam was innocent when he was going through it. A lot of people didn't agree with me, but that's okay. We don't bicker about it. But note, hey Grinch, but note that he says he wants to do this for lots of other people, but I've only seen him speak on Darlie.
Good for money. I do everything at my own expense.
I don't believe he's in it.
And I ran across Darlie's case from somebody that I know. And they said, you should take a look at this. I took a look at it. And when I initially went into the case, I felt as though Darlie was guilty. And I told Darlie Key that when I first, started looking at it, I'm like, this woman's horribly guilty. But it takes a whole lot more than listening to media. And it takes a whole lot more than listening to the prosecution. You have to look at everything. You have to look at both sides. You have to look at the side that believes she's guilty, and you got to look at the side.
So why is your channel so leery of us coming over? You're not looking at both sides. You really aren't. And, that's all I want to say about that. He says that, but I don't think he means it. I really don't. Yeah, Grinch, this might be boring for you. It's just a crime. Or I'm doing a reaction to a true crime story. So let me see here. I know I can't start it that way.
That believes she's innocent. And you have to properly and thoroughly investigate it.
Right.
And so when I have studied other cases in the past, such as the John Benet Ramsey case, the O.J. Simpson case, the Casey Anthony case, the John F. Kennedy case.
Okay.
And I must admit that I had some.
Those are all high-profile things. But me, as a child, as a young kid, I was intrigued by Vincent Bugliosi and his book that he wrote on Helter Skelter. That's what started with me, because I was an avid reader. And, there were true detectives laying around the house a lot, but I was really, really intrigued by the Manson case. And I wanted to know what made people tick, even as a child. Also, I was intrigued by the JFK, because I have Texas roots. And I knew in my mind, just from reading, I read Profiles of Courage, which was Kennedy's book as a kid. But as I looked into the Kennedy, I knew how shitty the world could be as a child. And I know how they can do something right in front of us and lie. And I know the Kennedy case back and forth, Rich does. But there's more things coming out. 50-some years later, there's still stuff coming out. But that was where I was at. It started for me with Helter Skelter.
One of the best, greatest teachers in the world that taught me how to investigate. And
Now, if I had some of the best teachers in the world that taught me how to investigate, I would name at least one of them, especially if they're world renowned.
And worked with some of the best. And I can tell you without any question of the doubt, I could sit here and I could spout all night long how Darlie is innocent, and that's just it. But that's not good enough.
No, that's not good enough. One thing is, like you said, you were taught by some of the best investigators in the world. Who are they?
Things need to be pointed out. Now, there are some areas of evidence with the case that at this time I'm really not going to put out there because I want to run it by some people first, as I promised I would. And I haven't quite had that opportunity yet.
So if you really believe something, Rich, if you really believe in something, do you have to run that belief by someone else before you can present it?
Couple subject areas I'm not going to get real deep into at this point, but most of the case I think I certainly can, because the information is available and it is out there on both sides. The thing that I find rather disgusting with this case is how the supporters and the non-supporters constantly bicker and want to tear one another apart.
Well, Rich, have you seen how that happens? Now, we don't want to tear each other apart. Now, right now, you and I are in a tiff with each other because of something that has nothing to do with the case. But when Danelle, is in a post telling the world that I'm stalking her, I'm harassing her and her family, she wanted nothing else to see me behind bars, and you know that that's not true. She knows that it's not true. Yet you put a like under that, Rich, and you told me you just have a habit of putting likes on things. I don't have that habit. I only do it if I like something. But my response to you was, well, you've been in the Justice for Devin and Damon group forever. You haven't put a like on anything. Maybe that means you don't like what you see over there. But then why lurk? If you really feel like she's innocent and you've studied under some of the world's best investigators, we would think that you would be able to show us where we're wrong over there and politely post, no, that's not correct. Or post, this is the fact. Or post, no, you got this wrong. But you've been in that group for years and you have yet to do that. And so I guess we're doing pretty good since you were trained by some of the world's best investigators.
We need to understand that doing that does nothing more but hurt the case. That's all it does. It hurts the case. It hurts Darlie, and it certainly insults the two children that were murdered in that case, which in my opinion is absolutely unacceptable. And that is why I will not allow under any circumstances conditions like that to exist in this room.
Okay, so Rich, what about their dad? The last reaction I did, you were basically saying that he did shady things, he did this, I think he knows more and more. Is that disrespectful to their father? Does their father have boobies?
So Bonnie here says that she's been studying the case for about a year. What have you come up with in that year, Bonnie, other than the fact that Darlie is innocent? Give me.
Isn't Bonnie his wife? I thought, because I've never watched this. I mean, I've seen a little bit, but I've never watched it.
Give me some specifics, if you don't mind, as to why you believe that she is innocent.
I don't remember him being a smoker. That's cool if you quit.
I have to listen to you twice.
And while we're waiting, I see we have two people in the room. Who is the other person? If you could be so kind as to identify yourself on the live chat, that would be great.
He's come a long way. He's only had a couple people in there. That's all right, too. He's very, very patient.
I did get started a little bit early.
Well, if it was,
I did say that I was going to start at 8 p.m.
If it's me, Rich, I just go on and present what I'm going to present. I don't worry who's in the room or how many people are there. You'll get your views later.
Central Standard Time. So I did get started a little bit early, but I just wanted to make sure that everything was going to work right. I'm a little bit green with this technology, and so I do ask for people to please bear with me, because I want to make sure that we can get things right here, because this subject is very important to me, and I've personalized it in many ways. I have had the opportunity to have correspondence with Darlie Lynn, and it's been an incredible experience. She's a very good writer, and I've enjoyed very much writing her back. And, you know, I can usually about tell when I'm expecting a letter from her. And, you know, I get extremely excited when I know the letter's coming. And when I get the letter, it's great. I love.
Oh yeah, perfect blind guy. I've been dealing with Kathy Ramsey for years, and for the most part, she's a nice woman, you know. But I have seen her in other places. She threatened to call CPS on me before. She didn't threaten it, but she was over in another group, and she got on me because I had a little. I made my profile was a little cowgirl, you know, with two little sharpshooters, a little cowgirl, you know, with her hat and her spurs and all that. And Kathy told me once in her group, that profile picture is inappropriate. That was when she was just Kathy Ramsey, right? That's inappropriate. And I'm like, that's Annie Oakley. Why? How's that inappropriate? But yeah, she didn't like the picture of Annie Oakley as a profile picture, but she took it as a name. And she knows I'm telling the truth. But for the most part, she's a really sweet person. But, you know, I did catch her in the group going, you know, I've thought about it, but I'm not really gonna do it. If I want to run this by the group, I wonder if we should call CPS on Brian because he sits in front of the computer too much. And I posted that's all you can see it. But you know, I don't have any hard feelings with her today. I really don't. But I can hold her accountable for doing that.
To analyze it, go through it, because it's usually always positive. It's usually with very nice, kind, wonderful things to say.
What's she supposed to say? Fuck this place. I don't want to be in here. This is bullshit. Stop writing me. I mean, they got to be kind. That's, you know, the people that are locked up, they look forward to letters from the outside, and they look forward to responding to them. It's a big thing, getting mail in there. So if you think Darlie's innocent, you know, shoot her a line. You know, I mean, honestly, you know, if you see that letter come under your door, you know, that's a good thing for any inmate. You know, and I encourage people, you know, if you think she's innocent, even if you think she's guilty, you know, she's still in a bad spot. So there's nothing wrong with writing to her.
And it is certainly not indicative of somebody that would have committed capital murder. I used to work.
Well, Rich, do you expect her to say, man, I hate being in here. You know, I wish I could be home with my knives. You know, I want to do some more cocaine. I want to kill some more people. Do you expect her to say that? You don't want the panel after your ass?
At a social mental rehabilitation center in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I worked there for several years as an activities director, which the place is called Next Step. And I was the activities director of 666 clients. Most of these clients were convicted criminals, a lot of them with horrible addictions, drug addictions.
I do know from, you know, I spent a lot of time in various kinds of jails. And I do know what he's talking about as an activity coordinator. That's just, in my opinion, that's somebody that maintains all the equipment, puts activities together, but they don't have much interaction with the inmates aside from that.
Things of that nature. And these folks I got to know very well. And some of these people were convicted of crimes similar to Darlie in the extreme cases. And
well, see, that I don't understand.
you know, like I said, I got to know these people really well. I got to learn how to read them, how to talk with them, how to understand them. And some of them I actually made really good friends with, but not usually the people that committed horrible, horrible crimes, but the ones that we.
I made friends with a guy who, him and four of his friends, young kids, stole a car. And when the police got behind him, he chose to run. And he was being encouraged. They loved it. Ha, 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 ha. But he ran into a tree, and every one of them kids got killed, except for him. He walked away without a scratch. And he has to live with that for the rest of his. He did it as a juvenile, so he didn't do very much time. But he's a good guy. That got, he didn't mean it. He is a good guy today. So I kind of know what Rich is talking about.
Usually minute, maybe misdemeanor crimes. I want to say that some of them I ended up becoming very good friends with. They really weren't that bad.
Hi there, Kimmy. He's been around for a while, and he does go to visit Darlie. He's a happily married man. He knows the family very well. He feels like she's innocent, and I was very friendly with him. I don't dislike the man, but I'm going through all of his videos to do my reactions on him. That's all. I don't know if he has a thing for Darlie. I know that she's very charming, and I wouldn't blame any man, if they had a sort of crush on her. But a crush shouldn't deter you from the fact that she put two kids in the ground.
Bad people. They just had problems going on at the time, and or they caused problems, and they had to do what they had to do to get rid of the situation, and they did, and they became somebody new.
Rich has been on for 10 minutes, 25 seconds already. He has yet to mention anything related to the case.
So it's showing that I have 3 people in the group. I would love to get a little bit of feedback going on in the live chat. Any questions for me? Again, this is just going to be an introduction to what's to come.
I think he's doing a good thing here. He's trying to get someone else to give him something to start with, and that's good. And it's not his fault. There's only a few people in there. It's first live, so I'm not going to knock him for that. But I can tell you that I've had lives that had up to 700 to 800 people in it. That's the most I've had in a live, about 779. And that wasn't about a Darlie case. It was about a St. Jude's case.
Every Saturday night at 8 p.m., I plan on doing this podcast. And I look forward to seeing the room grow, and look forward to talking to many people and getting to know a lot of people. Again, I don't care to get to know people that want to slam people or insult people. Or
now, Rich, Toby Shook's an idiot. James Cron. Yeah, I mean, you slam those people. You do that.
Insult Darlie Lynn's family in any way. It will not be tolerated, and it's not going to happen. But
it's not going to happen unless you do it, right?
I mean,
for you, what do they think about you slamming on Darren like you have been? What do they think about that? Why not? Do you think Darren had something to do with it? Do you? Do you think that Darren? Do you believe that insurance scam that the family set up? Do you believe that? Robbie Keith suddenly remembered. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? What if somebody came into your son-in-law and your daughter's home and killed those 2 kids? Would you remember that conversation after 6 years? You know, he did tell me this. That would be the first thing I would remember. The very first thing. You know, he was shopping around for people to break in his house, and now there's a break-in. Hey, what the fuck is up? And you guys expect us not to believe, to not run with that, right? And then another thing is, no one has demanded he mention those names. Nobody took it to the police from the Routier Key clan and pushed that. They didn't do it in 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, and 2002, and after. He put that affidavit out, I believe, in 2002. and the family doesn't demand it. They're looking everywhere else. Right? To me, when I looked at Darlie's case and I saw that, I said, that motherfucker knows who went in the house. Oh, yeah. He knows who he talked to. And he doesn't want to give the names because they're going to rat him out for it. That's what I thought. I fell for that shit. I fell for that. I thought Darren had something to do with it. I sure did. And that's why I was there. And that's what they hoped for. That's exactly what that affidavit is. If you don't know the behind of it, you'll look at that and say, well, there's your fucking answer. It's in the multiple people that he asked. Yep. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's kidding me. I like that picture. The supporters mentioned how they focused only on Darlie, but this is how. No, they didn't focus only on Darlie. It's that what Darlie was saying didn't line up with the blood evidence, and they didn't give anyone else to point at. They didn't say that night. Darren didn't say that night. You know, I've been asking around for people to break in my house. He didn't do it that night. And so they want people to run with that. The West Memphis Three are innocent. Ooh, perfect blind guy. I mean, you can talk about that some other time. But, yeah. So let me just go on with him. Don't get me wrong. I think Rich is a nice guy.
There's plenty enough to look at with this case without even needing to do that. And we go on and on and on. And I would love to share some of the investigations that I've done. Some of the people that actually study this horrible crime are very well aware of some of my findings and where I agree, where I disagree, and so on and so forth. But there's many, many reasons why I know for a fact that Darlie did not commit these murders.
And usually in investigations, you know, and this is even brought up as a crucial point in the Darlie Routier case, usually in investigations, especially in private investigations, not so much, you know, law enforcement officers, there is some written report. Even if you're not taking notes at the time, there is some written report on what you found in your investigations, where you went, the sources you spoke to, the conversations. So a true investigator would at least have a report. Even these officers that weren't taking notes, you know, they did have a report at the end of the day. And I'd be interested to see Rich's report.
It's just a horrific crime. You can bet the farm that I have an idea who did. I'm not going to put that out there at this time.
He said he thinks he knows who did. He's not going to put it out there. Yeah. The Alford plea, you know, like he was saying that they're innocent because of the DNA. I don't want to get sidetracked onto another case. But the Alford plea is actually a guilty plea. But that means you're guilty. Period. That means they admitted to guilt. And for me personally, I'm so strong on my points. And when I say something, I mean it. I would absolutely not admit to something that I didn't do. No matter what. I think that Damien Echols is an evil, evil person. And I think that one of the reasons that they got out is because of Johnny Depp and Marilyn Manson's whole thing. Have you ever seen Say 10? I think the $22 million that was raised for them is part of it. But yes, there is a whole lot of occultism in that. And he went mainstream when he met Johnny Depp. And period. Go look at the video that he did with Johnny Depp. It's called Say, S-A-Y, 10. That's what got him out. Money and influence. Damien Echols is an evil, evil person. The other two, I felt like were followers. Miss Kelly, and Mike Sell, I believe. I don't know that case. If I was in it reading it, I haven't read it for a while. But they are guilty. 100% guilty. And if you look on my Facebook, I don't know if you're on my Facebook or not, on my friends list, and he's been there for many, many years, is Terry Hobbs. And I play Candy Crush with Terry Hobbs sometimes. They try to blame it on Terry Hobbs. He's my friend through that case. But anyways, let's go back to this. I know I love true crime. And I don't want to come on here and and say anything about any true crime case unless I have some kind of verification. I don't speculate. But anyways, here, Rich.
Until there's a few people that I can talk with about it first, because I promised that that's what I would do. So once I can do that, then, and they don't mind me sharing it, then I'll share it. Other than that, and not just that, I do not in any way want to jeopardize Darlie Lynn's possibilities on any of her appeals or evidence hearings or anything like that.
Well, here's the thing. No matter what he says, first of all, you can see the skirting. You can see the control already. When you go onto the sports side, they try to warn you of what to say. Hey, maybe you should say this. They start with the controlling. But for me, if I feel like somebody's innocent, I don't need their family's approval. I don't. If I feel like I didn't get a hold of Hannah Overton's family, I don't need their approval. I felt like she was innocent. It was proven that she was innocent. So I really don't care. As long as I'm not upsetting them, in any way, I don't need your approval to think somebody's innocent. I don't need your, and evidence is evidence. So they keep saying, well, we can't say too much because we don't want it to get out there. Well, what happens if it does get out there? What happens if you put some good, strong evidence that she's innocent and you put it out there? What happens? That evidence is always going to be evidence, no matter if it's out there or not. So this whole hush-hush thing, I went through that for about, I don't remember how long I was in support, maybe a couple of years, not very long. But that old hush-hush shit.
Yeah, because believe me,
they started that right with getting the lie detector without the knowledge of the state. That's why Darlie Key's looking at Robert Riggs going, she didn't take a lie. No, she didn't take a lie detector test. She knew she took the lie detector test. And they were worried about it being a fail. That's why it was done without the knowledge of the state, without the knowledge of all of us. And the only three people that know those results are the polygraph examiner, Douglas Parks, I believe, and Darlie herself. And the polygraph examiner cannot give the results out by law unless it's released by the defendant or plaintiff person that gave it to.
This case is watched big time by a lot of people. So, but I'd like to get to some facts. I'd like to get digging into this case a little bit. Like I said, I got 3 people in the group. I'd love to hear from somebody. Anybody have questions for me? Anybody has questions about the case? And believe me, I don't enter into the world of speculation. If I don't know the answer to something, I will say I don't know the answer to that.
You said I want to go back and see what he said, just to be sure.
Anybody has questions about the case? And believe me, I don't enter into the world of speculation.
Did everybody hear that? I don't enter into the world of speculation. And on episode 20, the reaction that I did with him and his 3 panel guests was absolute, complete speculation. In the first hour that I've done, 2 hours, it's all speculation. It's all speculation. I think he's making this point because he knows that it's all speculation. That's my opinion. He wouldn't come through that. He wouldn't come to, hey, that means, hey, everything I'm getting ready to tell you, it's not a lie. It's not a lie. That's the same thing. Watch.
If I don't know the answer to something, I will say I don't know the answer to that. But I won't speculate.
You won't speculate. Okay. I don't know, but I heard it's you on this video to episode 20. You were speculating, and me and you and I, Rich, we can sit on a panel and talk. We can do that because I don't think you're nasty, but I think you fall along the crowd. It's all right. I get that. I do. I get it. I don't hate you. I got no agenda against you. But now it's time for you to be held accountable for some of the things that you've said on here, out of respect for Devin and Damon and for justice. That's where I'm at, civilly like a man with you. Okay? And at some point, I'd like to have you on my panel, and you and I discuss the case. I would. Because we've done it before in private. And it kind of goes like it is in public. You don't move from your stance. But I do believe that you said, I think BryanSt.John really knows that she's innocent. Okay, so I didn't hear that before. This would have been getting done a long time ago, Rich. So now I have to prove that. No, I know she's guilty. I don't want her to be guilty. Yeah, I don't want her to be guilty. She just is.
You got to remember, speculation is the first thing that'll get any type of capital case in trouble.
Barry Fife was a bad, shady person. He did a lot of bad things and hang a lot of shady people. I can't tell you right now. Oh, yeah, Beja had a long mental illness. She did drug. She had a rap sheet. Oh, that Glenn Mize. Beja was sleeping with Glenn Mize. That episode 20, my last one, Rich, is all speculation. So what changed? Did you get into the case, and after maybe 10 episodes, you realize that you done got into something you can't get yourself out of, brother? That's just my opinion. Right.
And a lot of that had occurred even in Darlie's case. A lot of speculation about her lifestyle, or she was clearly character assassinated.
Toby Shook's an idiot. Barry Fife was a bad dude. Did some bad things. Can't tell you right now, though, but a really good source told me. And Beja, oh, man. Those kids didn't like her. They didn't. Can't tell you how I know that, though. I'm just speculating. It's Rich. Richard. I'd like to know you as Rich. Or Richard. But not as a dick.
And you can see what it has done. A great injustice. And so that's why I don't deal in that kind of world. So we got 4 people in the group. I'm real pleased to see that. And I would love for somebody to come up on the live chat, type in a question, type in something. I'd love to hear what somebody has to say. Can everybody hear me okay?
Poor guy. And it's okay.
I want to make sure everything is working correctly.
Once you get it going. I've only got 2 viewers in here. It doesn't matter to me. Yeah, this is what I like to do. I'll get my views later when I post them in the group. I don't do this for views. I really don't. I get quality views. The people that see this, they see the truth. That's what I get.
The great insult of this case is not only the injustice, but the horrible lies and misinformation that occur with this case.
That sounds just exactly like me, don't it, ladies and gentlemen?
It's very large and it's absolutely horrible. And all it does is hurt Darlie.
Okay, so the lies are very large, right? And Rich has said on his own channel that he watched. He knew my other channel. My other channel was basically all Darlie, where I took my time and presented the case. He said he watched every one of my videos. He said all the lies are large, but he didn't pick anything. And when that channel went down, there were 13,000 videos on it. Not all of them were Darlie. Probably about 8,000 of them were Darlie videos. Good videos. Real good videos. Dug into the case. Wasn't a whole lot of this arguing. I did a whole lot of proving supporters wrong and shit like that, though. But he said there were very large lies and stuff in there. And I was the biggest one that was putting out the most on YouTube. I wasn't the smartest, but I was putting the most out on YouTube. And Richard has never, ever, one time said, Bryan, you lied about this. Ever. Never. Never did he put up a video showing and he could. See, I challenge people. When I make a video about Darlie, all right, I am so confident in this Darlie case that if you take my video and use it to show where I was wrong about something, I'm not going to be mad at you. I would be grateful to you if you correct me on something, because I want to know this case 100%. So please take me up on that. Bathsheba, all those of you they want people to think that I'll be incredibly nasty to you if you do that, and I won't. I'll only be nasty to you if you're nasty to me. And Rich hasn't been nasty to me. He hasn't. I caught him doing some shit, but he ain't been nasty to me. But any Darlie supporter, I challenge you to do that. And they know I've been done it for years. That's why they tell you, stay away from him. Stay away from him. I tell you what, if you keep hearing that I'm a bad guy and that I do this and that, you're hearing it. Well, take the opportunity to come check me out myself. Come talk to me. I've told people this before. Come talk to me. I won't bite your head off. You come treat me like a person, I'll treat you like a person. And you'll find out different. They just don't want you to listen to me. Shh, get away. No, don't be around him. He don't know nothing. Darlie Keys flat out told him I'd never talk to the family when everybody knows I already had. She said, he don't know the family. He never talked to none of us. But everybody already knows that I had.
All it does, in my opinion, is hurt those dead children. To me, that is a great injustice, and it should not be tolerated by anybody.
I'm going to do everyone.
I have no interest in any way of fighting with anybody on this case. I would be more than glad to lay everything out and explain it, even debate it perhaps. But I have no interest in trying to hurt anybody, no interest in trying to make myself out to be something I'm not, or anything like that.
Well, Rich, you did say that you were trained by some of the world's best investigators. And I'm not doubting that, but I really would like you to clarify that at some point. Just like when you and I were discussing where Sully said that she was an expert in a crime case that involved a gunshot wound to the head, and I didn't buy it. I did not believe it. So I asked her, I said, well, you can't just come out there and say that you have these kind of credentials. So you get, because if you do have these credentials, right, as an investigator, you might get a little more respect when it's something that you're saying or your opinion on something. If you got something on paper. But you did say that, and I don't see it.
My primary goal is to do everything in my power to try to get Darlie released from prison, because I do not believe she deserves to be there.
Everything in my power. Okay. What if you had the power to lie about it and get everybody to believe you?
And I do not believe that she is guilty. And so again, I really want this opportunity for somebody to kind of step up here and say something. We've been bouncing around from 4 to 5 people so far into the room. Very glad to see it. Or if anybody has any questions for me, I'd like to get to know some of the people that I'm going to be talking with. Some of them I already know, and quite a few of them I don't. But I do want that opportunity to get to know.
Well, see, what I would be doing, he's asked, in my opinion, he's asked several times for people to come up. It's apparent that they don't want to, and that kind of draws people away from you. So what I would do is I would have something that I could start with, and then I would read it off for a while and give my opinion. Then I would say, hey, has anybody got anything they want to add to this? And if they don't, you just keep going. But this is his first podcast, so I'll give him that credit.
Know people a little bit. I enjoy getting to know people and talking with people.
I really think Rich is a nice guy. I mean, I don't think I'd want to piss him off, to be honest with you. Because, the guys like that, he's really, really nice till you piss him off. I guarantee you, if I piss him off, he's not going to cower for me. So I don't look at it that way.
And especially with people that are fluent with the case. Sad to say, there's not as many fluent people with the case as I would like to think.
Oh, really? Rich, I can do it off the top of my head. There's a couple areas that I'm not so sure about, and if you ever debate me in a case, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I don't use words that I've been like, I'm not sure. Go back and look. Yeah.
Some people just go way off out in left field. So, and it gets really ridiculous.
Okay, so how ridiculous does it get? Give us an example. See, when I say something's really ridiculous, my next thing will be a post or some type of video to show that. It's really easy. It's really easy to make YouTube videos. It really is. You might have to invest a little bit. If you got a sore back, it's not that. I've got this chair that heats up on this side, and I got this little flat pillow. If I pull it out, it's going to be messed up. But it's really easy. And I don't do this for money either. I can monetize. They put too many limits on you if you monetize. And I'm not interested in it.
I don't want to name names or insult, but anybody who checks things out on this case with other podcasts, I don't have to tell you who they are.
Whoa. Look at that look on your face, Richard. God damn it, man.
So let's get somebody up here to talk with me a little bit. Anybody got a question? Anybody at all?
Poor guy.
Just ask something, anything. Get to know me a little bit.
You know, actually, Kim, I'm gonna stop this too. I like to engage.
Apologize about that. There's an upgrade.
Now listen, most of her supporters are actually women. The honest truth is, they're actually women, and a lot of the men, right? We have downright, absolutely proved 100% that at least two of them had crushes on her that were just outrageous. And God rest Elias and David Moffat. Now David Moffat, his was so bad that his wife Joan, he was going to marry this woman, Joan Zern, and it was so bad that she was tired of him writing back and forth. He was focused too much on Darlie, and this is all verified by fact. If I have to go back, I can prove it. I have put all this up before. It was on my other channel. But anyway, she took his letters from Darlie and just threw them out into the driveway. That ended up in a 2-hour police standoff with guns. And they raided his house, took all his guns, and took his ass to jail. This is one guy who said, I just can't wait for Darlie to get out and we can run off in the fields together and I can stare into her eyes and brush her hair. He would literally do that. He was called Janitor of the Gods on YouTube or on Web Sleuth. Give me a second. What's up? What's up? Oh, my phone died. What's up? Okay, you just hit me on Facebook. Anyways, that's what that ended up in. Now, Elias Sayegh is a 70-year-old man. He was, bless his heart, he died. And I grew to really enjoy him. But he owned a Whole Foods market in Orlando, Florida. He was sending Darlie like $200 a week. He was paying for testing that didn't even need to be done. We stopped him once, and he was at the bank going to draw out $11,000 for a test that was already done, and we knew it was done. But anyways, he had a crush on her, and God bless his heart. I spent a month in a female profile that I made up, that I created. This is why they say I make up all these profiles. I'll go ahead with the story. Let me just put my face up here. I made a fake profile, and her name was Dreama Krupp. Right? Yeah, her name was Dreama Krupp. And so my idea with that profile was to get into the Darlie support groups. I wanted to see what they were saying. Right? And so I created this persona, really pretty picture. And her deal was that she was on Facebook looking for groups that had wrongfully innocent, convicted people. And her husband was a well-known lawyer, and he had passed away, and he donated her $50,000 that he wanted to go to any case that she chose. Right? So I go in the guise of, hey, I'm shopping around for this wrongfully innocent thing. My husband, they just loved her. Oh, they just loved her. And I'm listening to them talk about this BryanSt.John guy. I got a whole page of the secret Darlie group. Anyway, from that. I might release it one day. I got it. But it's ridiculous. But Elias fell in love with her. Elias fell in love with her, and it got to be morbidly strange. But the bottom line in the end was Elias and Dreama got into a little bit of a sexy chat there. and it was pretty, all those non-supporters were watching. It was horrible. But they made Dreama Krupp, myself, an administrator of several of their groups. That's how naive they are. The one that caught me, I believe, was Patrick King. But let me put this back over here and get this going. I like Rich. That look,
I needed to do on one of the games I played, and I only have a certain amount of time to do it. And if I don't do it, I lose it. So let me explain a little bit of the things about me. I do live in a suburb of Dallas, Texas, so I do live close to Rowlett, where the horrible crimes were committed. I have been at the Routier house on Eagle Drive.
You've been past it.
I have been at the cemetery where the boys are buried in Rockwall.
I've been in that house, and I was a supporter at the time, and it was just on a whim, actually, and it was just luckily it was good timing apparently, but no, I didn't have my camera or any of it, but I've been in there, and I was a supporter when I went in there. So
I have had the privilege of talking with Darlie Key. And there are other people that I've talked to, and I'm not so sure that they might not want to be mentioned that I've talked to them for privacy reasons, so I don't want to put that up, but there have been some others. And got a lot of great information, and I do my own work. You know, there's somebody that I talk with rather regularly on this case, and I always tell her, you know, it's all about small stuff. You know, it's not about the big stuff in the case. It's about the small stuff. Let's look at the small stuff, because the small stuff can eventually lead into something big. You know,
I got that it's up on my channel.
I still waiting and hoping that somebody wants to come up and say something. I wish somebody would. I would really enjoy the opportunity to get a question.
I can honestly say that as a man, I felt sorry for Darlie. She was like a damsel in distress. And, you know, she's not a woman that if she was out here on the street, she's not a woman that would look my way, nor would I look hers. We're so far different. You know, I don't like all that. I don't like all that makeup. I've always went for the natural look. And one of the things I look for is what does she look like first thing in the morning? You know, just coming up out of the bed, eye boogers, snot, drool, hair all messed. If she looks cute like that, if she looks adorable like that, then there's no amount of makeup in the world can be any better than that. But I've been with Nicole for a long time, and we have our ups and our downs. And we know how to handle things. But I've only seen her in makeup and hair done twice in the 18 years. She's got all natural, long eyelashes, nice little eyebrows, cute little nose. She's adorable to me. She's just adorable to me. That's what I like in a female. And I also like to be able to touch her. I mean, that's a big thing for me. That's, being in a cage, that's kind of a deal breaker for me. I wouldn't care what you look like. But as far as, let's say, if I had a crush, because everybody's got like a celebrity crush or a writer crush. You ever seen Rachel Bloom sing "Fuck Me, Ray Bradbury"? But as one that I think is just adorable, that's a psychotic killer, is Shayna Hubers. That's my type of girl. And I don't even cover her case. She's cute. She's nice looking.
Put toward me or to. Okay, so Bonnie here asks, what do you think is the greatest error in the investigation related to the case?
Well, I don't know why he's not saying that she's his wife. I don't know.
Well, in my opinion, I don't know.
Well, in my opinion, I don't know. There's
so many big.
No, just name one. You can't say so many big. She asked you for one, the biggest. She wants to know what the biggest is. Not so many.
Big things that were errors in the case. Probably, in my opinion, was the police investigation.
Well, okay, but that covers a whole lot. She asked for the biggest.
I do not believe that the police investigation was thorough. I do not believe it was fair. I do not believe that investigated certain avenues on the case that they should have.
Okay, that's obvious. Like what?
And I'm actually rather disappointed
Actually,
in that. And
you're disappointed, but you have given no specifics. None. Well, the police investigation was wrong, and there's a lot of this, there's a lot of that, but you haven't named anything. Nothing.
Texas, I'm not initially from Texas.
Now, Texas has nothing to do with what happened inside of that house. If they lived in Pennsylvania, it'd have been the same evidence, same outcome.
But I've lived in Texas for quite a long time. And I do know for a fact that the judicial system.
But she asked you what the biggest thing in that case was. You're way out in that. You went out of the house, you went down the street, you went into the state, and now you're into the nation. We need to reel you back in to 5801 Eagle Drive in Rowlett, Texas.
Here in Texas is extremely erroneous, and they're absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, absolutely ridiculous. How? Specifics. There's no detail coming from you. It's all fluff.
They're absolutely ridiculous in many ways, and I know this out of personal experience. So what really gets me in my mind is with a case to such magnitude, what they would have done.
You're not naming any specifics at all, Rich. None. You are generalizing and speculating.
The thing with Darlie that was very unfortunate. I mean, at the time that the boys were murdered, Darlie Lynn was 26 years old, and in my opinion, and again, I'm not talking bad about Darlie Lynn. I consider her a friend, but in my opinion of Darlie Lynn, at the time she was 26 years old, she was a very naive young.
Okay, the question was, what was the biggest thing in the case? And you're talking about everything else but the question asked. And am I hearing this wrong?
Woman. And I think it cost her dearly, with the case. But another huge error in the case was the collection of evidence. And the
whoa. You said and another, but you never gave one. She said the biggest. You said there's so many, and you went on for a few minutes about Texas and the justice system and all, but you never named anything about the case. And then you said, and another thing. You haven't named one yet. So let's see what this is.
Murder scene. The murder scene wasn't properly controlled.
The chief of police was denied access to that scene by the officer standing guard. I used to know his name offhand, but I don't know now. But he would not let him in. The chief.
You have to remember, though, anytime when there is any kind of a murder and they have to go into somebody's house where somebody was murdered, first line of business is to save lives. That's what they're going to try to do if it's possible. And Devin was already deceased by the time the first responder got there, which was Officer Waddell. And Damon was alive, but just barely. So, the first line of, as soon as the ambulance paramedics get there, obviously they're going to see that Devin is deceased, but they're going to see that Damon is not. So they're going to want to work toward trying to save his life. So there's going to be people stomping around, running around all over. But even after the fact, they still had people stomping around all over the place, stepping on blood. Of course.
Stomp is when somebody gets their fat ass up out of the chair, like they're literally, I can't do it. Like they're literally not just walking through that scene, but he's trying to make it seem like I'm not even going to try it because it's going to hurt. But like they're stomping, like they're stomp. You know, that they did not do that. That's a maximization of the word to make it sound more powerful.
Of course, the house was a complete bloodbath, absolute horrific.
It was mostly Darlie's blood.
Scene. You know, it's something I do want to mention. You know, in Up Ahead podcast, I would like to go over some photography on the case with the group.
Now, wait a minute. You said you've already done your investigation. You should be presenting photos right now.
The only thing is I don't know that it's really necessary to put the photographs of Devin and Damon, because they do tell a story, but they're very horrific, and I do not want to upset the family, and I'm not sure that that's totally necessary, but there are other things and other
later on he went ahead and did that.
Different bits of photography that were taken at the time that I think are significant to the case. There are many aspects. If you listen to a 911 call, I have a lot of questions about that 911 call. A lot of questions. I do believe that at the time of the 911 call, Darlie was completely frantic at that time.
Actually,
why she was making the call. I do not believe that was just
because I'm responding to a question. She said only Waddell cleared the scene. I'm correcting. So I'm saying actually Waddell cleared the scene when Walling got there. So they would call it clear when two of them were there, I believe. Could be wrong.
Staged event whatsoever. That call, it actually haunts me when I listen to it, and I don't get haunted very easily. I've seen some really rough things over the years, let me tell you, but that 911 call shrills my soul. But unfortunately, it's part of the investigation of something that has to be analyzed and looked at. I have analyzed and looked at it many, many times, and with other people as well. And
some of the world's best.
There's a lot to go over with that, and it would probably take more than just one regular podcast session to have the opportunity to actually go through all of it.
I agree,
because it's just that entailed. But we will definitely do that at some point.
I agree.
Does anybody else have any questions or want to say something? I mean, Bonnie's saying stuff. Bonnie's actually my missus. But it's actually not her real name that's on the screen, but her name is Bonnie, but that's not her last name. But she's asking me questions, but I'm trying to get the ball rolling here. And I mean, we got 4 people in the group. I really want to have this opportunity to
Rich,
talk with people. Anybody at all, something, anything. Bring something. Challenge me. Do something.
Rich, if you've done an investigation already, you wouldn't need anybody to draw that out of you. Especially if you've worked with the world's best investigators. One of the things they'll tell you, if you're in some kind of school where you're doing private investigations and stuff like that, some kind of behind-the-scenes law enforcement, one of the things that you would never do is say something like, I don't want to get into it. Somebody told me, but I don't want to get into it. See, a real investigator never shows cards. They never let you know what they know. Because most of investigation is done by information you get from somebody else. You catch them in a lie. Somebody talks. You never lay your cards on the table as an investigator. Never. As a YouTuber, you might know. I lay mine on the table all the time.
This case I've made very, very personal to me. Because I have been to the gravesite where the boys are buried at, and it's absolutely heart-shattering to stand there and look. But anytime I'm in Rockwell,
and Kimmy is speaking about Peter Hyatt. Peter Hyatt did the analyzation on the 911 call. He is well known for that. Also, I don't know if the dialogue still has a channel. I haven't been over there for a while. I know that I begged her, to do a body, like the body language on her, the dialogue. But I believe that's Peter Hyatt that you're speaking about, and I think it's still available.
Well, Rockwall, I'm sorry, or in Rowlett, or in that neck of the woods, I always stop by. And, just.
It took me a year of asking the dialogue in their comments to do the Darlie. She didn't want to touch it, but she finally did.
Just kind of keeps the engine running, on the subject, because I'm not going to stop with this case, the investigation, nor the study of it until Darlie is free. Now, a lot of people ask what needs to be done to get Darlie free. That's not going to be an easy boat to row. It's got a real hard garden to hoe, I can tell you that. But if we can get something back on J85, and we can actually put a name to that print, I would say that would definitely increase the chances big time of getting her out of there.
Wait a minute.
There's also
Rich said that he was trained by the world's best investigators, that he's investigated this case in depth, and he just called 85J J85. That could be a huge mistake in evidence, the tagging of it. That could be something like mistagging can make a huge difference. I believe that the series with her arm bruising is a 52 series, 52C, 52A, 52B. Part of investigating is knowing those types of details.
The questions, other big questions that I have in the case, and like I said, I got to kind of be careful where I go with some of this at this point, but it won't be that way forever, is where do I want to go here with this? There's so much I want to share. It's incredible. And you get me on a tangent on any particular subject with a case, I could go for hours. Anybody that knows me and talked to me about this case knows I have those capabilities.
Rich, if you can go for hours, why are you begging your two people in the chat?
Maybe let's talk about Darlie's wounds for a moment. First of all, I've had the opportunity of being able to reconstruct the assault on Darlie, and I could make it match perfectly with the wounds. Could I be mistaken? Of course I could be, but it sounds very logical.
I could make it match perfectly.
As per what Darlie Lynn had said had occurred, where she said she was on the couch, where the boys were, and everything that had transpired. It makes total sense. But if you look at the throat wound, if you look at the stab wound and the other stab wound, okay, they say they're superficial wounds. Well, first of all, let's cut it to the get-go. I know Greg Davis. He was the lead prosecutor on the Darlie case. I know him, and he knows me. And I would love to see him come into this chat group and talk with me. I know he will not.
Whoa. As many times as I have spoke to Rich, he has never told me that he knew Greg Davis. If he knew Greg Davis, he would know his brother Bruce. He would know his father Lyle. He would know about the electric company they own. He would know about the death of Lyle. He would know that Bruce accused Greg Davis of that death. Said his dog jumped up on his dad when they came to visit. Bruce Davis used to be in these groups until I believe I ran him off because I wasn't having it. But I have never, ever, ever heard Rich say that he knows Greg Davis. Now I'm interested. You got money? I'm interested. Let's see that. Let's see what's happening here.
Do that. And I'm not trying to insult him, but I do believe that he did a poor piss job of the case. And I know other cases he has had that he has done poor piss work for.
Greg Davis was 22-0 convictions. Whoa. You said you don't speculate.
And I know him on a personal level, sad to say.
Oh, I never knew that. It's possible because he works in concrete, and they did have an electric company. But Greg Davis has always been a lawyer, but the family had an electric company, so it could be possible. But the brother Bruce, he went on to MIT in computer technology. So,
and he may be a very dynamic speaker and a dynamic prosecutor indeed, but he's a horrible person. And he's going to do whatever it takes to get those convictions.
Well, give us some, because that's what we put our DAs in office for. But now this is starting to piss me off. I would like to know. Tell me about how horrible Greg Davis is, because I think he's the fucking champ. I really do. I think he's a champ. I wouldn't want to commit a crime and go up against him. I think he gets his point across. I think he paints a hell of a good picture of what the evidence exactly is.
To get another conviction under his record, he is that kind of person, regardless of the cost to anybody.
Okay, so what did he lie about? What did he do? How did he change the evidence in the case? What did he withhold? Who did he get up there to lie? Who did he pay? How did he go over his bounds? How did he do that? Tell me how he did it in Darlie's case. Let me know, Rich. God, I want to know. I want to go kick his ass.
Yes.
I want to kick his ass good, Rich.
Now, this I know for a fact.
This you know for a fact. Okay. Greg Davis is an amazing prosecutor. This I know for a fact. And my proof is in the man's track record. Never disbarred. Never, you don't see prosecutorial misconduct in his cases. I know that for a fact. That's bullshit, Rich.
But back to the wounds. First of all, a doctor at Baylor University told Darlie Key that
hearsay. Hearsay. This is 100% hearsay. Well, a doctor told Darlie Key, and she told me that's an example of hearsay.
Wounds were not they were not self-inflicted.
He told Darlie Key that, but his report said they could be self-inflicted. And Darlie Key didn't record that. Why is this doctor talking to Darlie Key about any procedure that she did on her daughter? That's a violation of the HIPAA law. No matter what.
And as far as being superficial is like it scratches.
Yeah, you need to explain that to Danelle. You need to explain that to Danelle next time she's on your panel. Because I tried to tell her that superficial meant a minor wound. And by God, I was wrong. Did you know that, Rich? I was using that word incorrectly. They are minor wounds.
Okay. The wound of the throat, which is in this general area, will come within 2 millimeters of Darlie's carotid artery.
You said it is in this general area, Rich, but you were on the wrong side. Your thumb was up towards your ear on the wrong side. You were literally on the wrong side. Let me go back over here.
And as far as being superficial is like it scratches.
Yeah,
okay.
You get what you know.
The wound of the throat.
The wound to the throat doesn't go from here to there. It goes to the other side, Rich. It's the other side, Rich. The other side, sir.
So in this general area.
World's best investigators.
Will come within 2 millimeters of Darlie's carotid artery. which indeed, if it would have cut it, it would have been fatal. You bleed to death in a matter of minutes.
Right.
And she almost did bleed to death.
No,
actually.
she didn't. No, actually.
And the stab wound to her arm.
She almost did bleed to death, actually. She was nowhere close to bleeding to death. The only way she would have bled to death is if she didn't get to Baylor. I used to say, well, yeah, she could have died. She could have died if the ambulance ran into a tree on the way to Baylor. She was in no. Now, if somebody had cut her carotid sheath 2 millimeters in, and she just laid there and didn't get medical attention, yeah, she would have died. It took a couple hours, but she would have died. No, she was in no danger of dying.
Went to the bone. And you got to remember now, if in fact Darlie did do these wounds and they were self-inflicted, Darlie would have had to use her left hand to stab her arm.
And what is the issue with that? Most people that are right-handed would use their right hand. Yeah, but most people that have kids don't kill them. What's that? I don't see that. What that is? That could be part of the staging.
And Darlie was right-handed. That's usually not how it works.
Okay, how many cases have you seen where somebody's broke into the house and stabbed a woman across her neck, and there's a cut on her arm? Usually. You said that's usually not how it works. What do you mean? How many other cases are there like that? That means you have something to compare it to, right?
And also there was a stab wound here to the upper chest. I don't think it was that deep, but it was a stab.
It was a slice. It was an incised
wound. And the bruising. Now, I told Darlie Key this. I've told many other people this. Several years ago, probably about 10 years ago, I had developed a blood clot in my right leg. And I didn't know I had it. And then one day I was out working and I felt something like pop.
We talked about this behind the scenes.
Pop behind my knee. And very uncomfortable feeling, but I didn't pay it much mind. I just kind of shook it off and went back to work. Well, needless to say, probably about 24 hours after that, I had shorts on. It was summertime, and this was back in Pennsylvania. And I had walked past somebody I knew. I said, "My God, what happened to your leg?" I didn't even know. What are you talking about? Your whole back of your leg black. And so I looked at it, and sure enough, literally from the bottom of my butt all the way to my ankle on the back side. Very strange, but it was on the back side. It was pitch black. So I went, but it didn't hurt. And so I went to the hospital, and they did CT scans, different various things. And they told me that, they seen on ultrasound that I'd had a blood clot and a vein blood vessel had ruptured as a result.
Talked about that.
And that was internal bleeding.
I was worried about him.
Well, those black bruises under Darlie's arm, especially the arm where she had the stab wound that went to the bone, all this under here is probably internal bleeding as a result of that knife wound. I do not believe that was a result of a beating or anything like that, but that doesn't explain the other arm, though.
Well, the thing of it is, if the knife wound would have caused some internal bleeding, the nurses would have noted that internal bleeding, and they did not. Actually, they feel like that the bruising did not come from any event that occurred on 6/6/96.
That doesn't explain her hands. Her hands were bruised up and had contusions on them, as well as with this arm, had contusions on it. Now, I've tried very hard to match those contusions to something that was under the major stab wound on top of the arm. And I've come up with some interesting things, and I've talked to various people about it. Some people agree, some people disagree. Any possibility that anybody might think that that was a scratch from maybe a ring or a watch or a bracelet, something like that, as a result of an assault? Think about it, because
He's talking about those 3 little marks that are in the middle of that bruising. It could also be from swinging your arm into a brick wall. Could it be? Because those bruises were not there when she was in the hospital. It was that scratch he's talking about.
you can get many looks at different rings, many looks at different bracelets, same with watches.
So you were trained by the world's best experts. So how many rings did you compare to that? How many watches did you compare to that? What were the results of that testing that you did? Because you said you investigated this. Let's see it. It should be on the board behind you. You should have some papers in front of you showing your test. The world's best investigators, Rich.
And there are quite a few that come very, very close to that contusion signature on the bottom of the left arm.
Quite a few. Quite a few. So it would be easy for you to name just one of them, wouldn't it?
Also, there were other various marks. She also had some marks on her face.
No, she didn't. She had a little scratch on her chin, and she even said it was a mark on her face, a mark on her chin.
Darlie did. And for me to believe, and you have to remember, I worked with a lot of clients that had suicide attempts, or some actually succeeded. I actually heard.
How do you work with a client that succeeded in suicide? How did you get your check? Let me see if I heard that right. I don't fuck with you. Let's see.
Some actually succeeded. You can get many looks at different rings, many looks at different bracelets, same with watches, and there are quite a few.
Quite a few. But if I was saying this, there'd be a picture of what I was talking about right behind me. He doesn't even name a brand.
That come very, very close to that contusion signature on the bottom of the left arm.
Very close, but no cigar. Yeah, have you turned this in? Have you shown this? I would be interested in that. As a matter of fact, if you could match something up like that doesn't belong to Darren and Darlie, that would cast some doubt in my brain if you could do that. But all you can do is say that. That's where you're stuck at. That's all you've been doing is saying. You ain't even proving nothing. You ain't showed nothing.
Also, there were other various marks. She also had some marks on her face. Darlie did. And for me to believe, and you have to remember, I worked with a lot of clients that had suicide attempts, or some actually succeeded.
I see dead people. Rich. These next several videos that I'm going to make you, this is why they don't like me, brother. I mean you absolutely no harm. I'm only trying to hold you accountable for things you say. So, you worked with clients that actually committed suicide. All right, you can explain it to me.
I actually heard.
Actually. Actually. Rich is the actually man. He's actually rich.
Somebody say once, I'm not going to mention names, but somebody say once that.
I actually, not going to mention your name.
Suicide by slitting the throat is more common than not.
No. I said that suicide by throat is not as rare as we think it is. Right? And I'm going to say the word actually. My friend Kelly Markham, God rest his soul, he was surrounded in his girlfriend's house by the police. They wanted him to come out. They knew he was in there, called him by name. And he literally took a knife and went, didn't kill him, but he sure tried it. And but if you look that up, his name's Kelly Martin, but if you look up suicide by throat slash, it's more common than what we think. And I have said that.
Well, out of my personal experience, I've never heard of one case of a suicide like that. And I'm not saying they don't occur. And I'm not saying that it happens. What I am saying is they're not that common.
Jody Arias said that she wanted to slit her. Nope, I'm wrong. She said wrist. Never mind. But she said that it hurt. I'm gonna go back and double check that. But she said the reason she stopped is because it hurt. And people always ask, well, how would Darlie know when to stop? Well, your fucking neck tells you. This hurts. And your reaction is to stop. And you might stop and do it like that. I pulled a ridge. That hesitation slice, to me, it's very possible that she could have a jerk reaction when she hit that sheath and it caused her to flinch and get that other one. Or it could have ran over top of the necklace.
Comparison to blowing your brains out, taking pills, and maybe slicing wrists. But I seriously doubt. Some people believe that Darlie Lynn murdered her boys and then tried to commit suicide. I seriously doubt it. I seriously doubt that. So we got 5 people in the group.
Okay, now
and is
serious doubt. His serious doubt. Here's the thing. I don't know how you can have serious doubt about Darlie attempting to commit suicide 3 weeks after she wrote that she was considering suicide. I don't know how you could have serious doubt. You may have doubt, because, that is a knife and there are different ways to do it. But I don't know how you can have serious doubt considering, Darlie wrote about it. That's a lack of common sense to have serious doubt. I mean, when you read her diary through your investigation under the training of the world's best investigators, when you read that in the diary that she was thinking about killing herself, and then she comes up with a slice wound that could be a suicide attempt, but you have a serious doubt about that. Could you explain?
Anybody interested in bringing anything up, talking about anything, asking any questions? Anything, anybody? Anybody at all?
Poor guy. I'm going to plug my phone in.
We have 5 people in the group. I'd very much like to get to know some people here. Okay. I'm not sure why nobody wants to talk to me, but maybe we can move on here. I had the opportunity of meeting a man in Rowlett that was actually friends with Darren and Damon. At least he claimed to be, but he seemed to know a lot about those boys and the case, and he really seemed credible to me. He would have been around Devin's age, so he'd have been about 30 years old. I didn't ask him his age, but he was able to describe things about the Routiers that not a lot of people know. And I asked him flat out. And I can get in touch with him and see if I can put his name out there. I don't want to do that without him saying it's okay. But I will do that. And because I'm actually making notes as we chat here about certain various things. And I asked him, I said, obviously my first question was, do you believe that Darlie did that? And the first thing that kind of caught my ear was the fact that this fella and his group, I'd very much like to get to know some people here.
Hey, he don't give up. I give him that.
Okay. I'm not sure
He's
why
probably got
nobody
a lot
wants
of
to
views
talk
on
to
it
me.
now. Let's see how many views he's got on that. Just check.
Maybe we can move on here.
I'm not trying to.
I had the opportunity
He ended up with almost 2,000 views on it. It's not
meeting
bad.
a man in Rowlett that was actually friends with Darren and Damon. At least he claimed to be, but he seemed to know a lot about those boys and the case, and he really seemed credible to me. He would have been around Devin's age, so he'd have been about 30 years old. I didn't ask him his age, but he was able to describe things about the Routiers that not a lot of people know.
Okay, I knew this guy, and he knew them, and he was able to do this. That can't name him. He's probably this age.
And
Makes a lot of sense.
I asked him flat out. And I can get in touch with him and see if I can put his name out there.
No, Rich. It don't work like that, brother. I can get in touch with him and see if I can put his name out. It don't work that way, buddy. You're speculating. You're giving us information that you cannot verify. You're them, man.
I don't want to do that without him saying it's okay.
Then you shouldn't talk about it at all. There you go. This is what investigators do not do, especially ones that are investigating based on being trained by the world's best.
But I will do that. And because I'm actually making notes as we chat here about certain various things.
Okay, here's a couple things, and I've heard certain various things a lot. One is I did not know that Rich knew Greg Davis personally. And two, I want to know whatever happened with these notes about this person that knew Devin and Damon personally. I want to know. This look that he has on his face right now, that's very smug. That's not very confident. That's very doopy, delightish, in my opinion. I'd like to ask Rich whatever happened with those notes. I'd like for him to tell us more about Greg Davis because I've never heard that before from him. Never. And we've talked about the world of, we've talked about being out in construction and doing stuff, like that. And he's never mentioned that. That's very smug. That look right there. That look right there tells me I know I'm full of shit and I'm selling it to you for free.
And I asked him, I said, obviously my first question was, do you believe that Darlie did that? And the first thing that kind of caught my ear was the fact that this fella.
The first thing that catches my ear is that you're about to tell a story about someone that none of us know exists except for you.
And where he had lived today was only about 2 miles, I would say, from where Darlie and Darren lived.
It's 2 miles away from the house. I was hoping he'd say that he lived on a street, a block or two. That would be different. But it's 2 miles. This is a young kid that was about Devin and Damon's age at the time. But he knew a lot about the family 2 miles away. Okay.
In 96.
How was he associated with him, Rich?
And I said, do you think Darlie did it? And he said, there's no way. He said he didn't call her Darlie. He called her Mrs. Routier. That just kind of caught me because he wasn't the kind of guy that seemed like he was mannered that way. And that's what he said. He called her Mrs. Routier. He said, there's no way Mrs. Routier did that. He said that he did have the opportunity on Saturday to go to movies with them sometimes.
Sometimes on Saturday. 2 miles away. There's no way. This is not somebody that's over there every day all the time. But sometimes on Saturday, they go to the movies. And he could tell there's no way Darlie did it by that.
He said that house was like the house of the neighborhood.
Well, wait a minute. You said they go to the movies. You didn't say anything about going to the house. Let's see.
And he was a little boy. And he loved it, and he loved going there. And he said, and so did all the other kids. And
so did all the other kids. Darlie doesn't have, she's got pictures of birthday parties and stuff with kids, but she just doesn't have any pictures of kids just hanging out in her house playing Nintendo. She doesn't have them. She's got a picture of her friend Julie squeezing her boob, though, when she's going on a cruise. She's got video of that. I'm going to Disneyland. She's got video of that. There's no videos that exist of that house anywhere of anybody playing Nintendo.
he said never once did he ever see anything out of line. Of course, he did admit to me, he said, you got to remember, I was a little boy. I really wasn't looking for anything. You know, I wasn't looking to find something wrong. You just don't do that when you're little. I understand.
Rich, you realize that the story that you're telling right now, it's a waste of time, brother. That's a waste of time because you cannot name this person. If you want to convince people that that she's innocent, if somebody told me that shit, I would tell you who they were. I wouldn't give a fuck.
Matt, I get that. And
he just wants to be nice. So he wants to protect the facts of the case because he wants to be nice. He don't want to disrespect that guy.
So, you know, we really had a good conversation. He had nothing bad to say about Darlie Routier at all. Nothing.
Would you say that in the court? Could you stand up on the stand and say that and it mean anything? If it doesn't mean anything in court at all, Rich, it's not going to mean anything here on YouTube. Who was this gentleman? When was he over there? What specific? You are giving generalization and speculation. Yeah.
Nothing bad at all. As a matter of fact, it was all nice things. Said anytime we'd go over there, we'd always have a treat.
First, he said sometimes they would get together on Saturdays and go to the movies. He said he wasn't over there a lot. They sometimes on Saturdays. It changed to, it's like this kid fucking moved in. And where was Beja with that? With all these strange people that she's bringing in, where all these kids are over there. Where's Beja at? This is fun.
We used to call it the Nintendo house.
And that's the second time we used to call it the Nintendo house. So that came from that kid that lived 2 miles away that once in a while went to the movies with him on Saturday. Now, I was always wondering where that Nintendo house thing came from.
He said Mrs. Routier was probably one of the nicest moms.
Routier.
In the neighborhood, he said.
She was probably one of the nicest moms in the neighborhood, he said. But he lived 2 miles away. That's a different neighborhood. That's a different neighborhood. 2 miles away. Darlie was the nicest mom for 2 miles around and more.
And it was nice to hear that. It really was. When you hear the other horrible things about Darlie that is said about her all the time, it's like a breath of fresh air when you hear.
Well, why don't you tell us about this breath of fresh air? You remember 3-4 years ago, this guy was writing down notes for Rich to present.
Something like that, especially in person. You know, you're not hearing it from the media. You're not hearing it from the police. You're not hearing it from the courts. You know, you're actually hearing it from somebody in person. It was like a.
Who is it? What's the name?
A breath of fresh air to me. And but you know, you could tell that he was really disturbed at talking about the case. As a matter of fact, I don't really think he wanted to talk about it. I had got to the job site that day in Rowlett, and the customer, and I knew I was real close to the Routier residence, and I had made a comment to the customer. I said, I happen to notice you're kind of close to where the Routiers lived. He goes, oh yeah, right up there in Eagle Drive. I said, yeah. I said, you're familiar with the case? He said, oh yeah. I said, you lived here then? He goes, yeah, I actually lived pretty close in that development area. He didn't say where, and I didn't ask. But he had said to me, he said, he goes, well, my son was friends with those boys that were murdered. And I said, geez, I said, can I talk to your son? I said, is he home? He said, yeah. Well, actually, the father lived with the son. The father was elderly, but anyway, the son come out, and like I said, you get a little starstruck, so to speak. But you could tell he was uncomfortable. About talking about the case. He says all these years later, it still disturbs him deeply. He said for years after that, I mean, they couldn't ride their bikes past the house. They were scared to death of that house. So again, not only were a lot of families, members of Darlie's victims here, there was a lot of children that were victims here too. Friends of, Devin and Damon. I can't even begin to imagine what that would have done to a neighborhood such as what that was in 1996, and for all intents and purposes still is today. It's very unfortunate.
Did it come back?
So, but I could definitely tell he was uncomfortable in talking about the case. So Bonnie says, what did they say about the tone of the neighborhood after that night? Well, I mean, the only thing he said is that they were scared to go into that neighborhood, and they were scared to ride their bikes past the house, and things just weren't the same for them anymore. I guess it's kind of what could be expected.
Let me go back.
And I'm sure this highly affected the about Darlie Routier at all. Nothing bad at all. As a matter of fact, it was all nice things. Said anytime we'd go over there, we'd always have a treat.
Well, okay.
We used to call it the Nintendo house.
Well, I don't know how much my mic was cut out because I was watching him. What was the last thing? What was the last thing that you remember me talking about, Kimmy? I'm going to do this to the end of the video. Well, I got 20 minutes. 20 minutes, and then I'm getting an emergency phone call from my psychoanalyst. Oh, tomorrow. Good. Right now, I got to have my medicine. When did my mic stop? Was I wanted to try to get back to where I was. He was explaining about some guy that was devastated by it, and then he went on to he met some father on a. Okay, that's where I went back.
He said Mrs. Routier was probably one of the nicest moms in the neighborhood, he said. And it was nice to hear that. It really was. When you hear the other horrible things of Darlie that is said about her all the time, it's like a breath of fresh air when you hear something like that, especially in person. You know, you're not hearing it from the media. You're not hearing it from the police. You're not hearing it from the courts.
We're not hearing it.
You know, you're actually hearing it from somebody in person. It was like a breath of fresh air to me.
You're giving all this
and
evidence that you've talked to these people, but you're not naming them. And you know, if this kind of thing could actually save her life, I wouldn't care. I would write down their names and I'd say, he told me this. They told me that. Then people could go talk to them. That's what I'd be doing, Rich. Why are you trying to be nice to them? You didn't mentioning no names.
But, you know, you could tell that he was really disturbed at talking about the case. As a matter of fact, I don't really think he wanted to talk about it.
Then, okay,
I had gotten to the job site that day in Rowlett.
On this guy, first he said that he had a really great conversation with this guy. Then he ends it with, the guy really didn't want to talk about it. I could tell he didn't really want to talk about it. What I was saying was, if you're having a great conversation, it means you're engaged and everybody's like, yeah, you know, they're into it. But if he feels like the guy you really didn't want to talk about it, well, why? First of all, why'd you keep asking shit? And how do you call that a great conversation if he was disturbed? It's not a great conversation if you're talking about anything, you know, if you're disturbed. It would be an upsetting conversation. It would be a deep conversation, not a great conversation.
The customer, and I knew I was real close to
the
residents. And I had made a comment to the customer. I said, you know, I happen to notice you're kind of close to where the Routiers lived. He goes, oh yeah, right up there in Eagle Drive. I said, yeah. I said, you're familiar with the case? He said, oh yeah. I said, you lived here then? He goes, yeah, I actually lived pretty close in that development area. He didn't say where, and I didn't ask. But he had said to me, he said, that he goes, well, my son was friends with those boys that were murdered. And I said, geez. I said, can I talk to your son? I said, is he home? He said, yeah. Well, actually, the father lived with the son. The father was elderly. But anyway, the son come out, and like I said, you get a little starstruck, so to speak. But you could tell he was uncomfortable about talking about the case. He says all these years later, it still disturbs him deeply. He said for years after that, I mean, you know, they couldn't ride their bikes past the house. They were scared to death of that house. So again, not only were a lot of families members of Darlie's.
See, you're saying a lot of. You're not naming any of these people. Nothing that you have said you have backed up with any type of fact. Nothing. You started this thing out by saying you don't speculate. And you've been speculating ever since you've been talking. 38 minutes, 29 seconds in. You have showed no evidence of her innocence whatsoever. None. Absolutely none. And you wonder why we don't believe that she is innocent. You guys have nothing to present. Nothing. These kids were scared to death of that house. That's normal if a murder happened there.
Victims here. There was a lot of children that were victims here too. Friends of, Devin and Damon. I can't even begin to imagine what that would have done to a neighborhood such as what that was in 1996, and for all intents and purposes still is today. It's very unfortunate. So, but I could definitely tell he was uncomfortable in talking about the case.
Then why do you press people to do it?
Bonnie says, what did they say about the tone of the neighborhood after that night? Well,
don't sit here and lie. I'm gonna check.
I mean, the only thing he said is that they were scared to go into that neighborhood, and they were scared to ride their bikes past the house, and things just weren't the same for them anymore.
Yeah, that's because of what Darlie did, not because of what the intruder did. Darlie did that.
I guess it's kind of what could be expected. And I'm sure this highly affected the adults too. Now, this fella did tell me that one thing I did notice is, I'm able to speak Spanish, and
¿Qué pasa, amigo? Ándale, arriba.
This fellow was speaking Spanish rather fluently to the staff that I had out on the job site. And I said, wow, you really speak good English, Because he looks like a white man, just like myself. And he goes, well, my mother was Mexican. And my mother was kind of, knew Darlie pretty well. I said, is there any chance I can talk to her? He said, I'm sorry, my mother passed away a few years ago. And I didn't get a name. And I really wish I would have got a name. I got his name because I got the contract.
Why are you,
I should say my brother got the contract.
Why are you worried about getting a name? You didn't get a name. You're not giving any names out. This is a third story. You're going to tell us about a story that comes from some woman who isn't even here anymore through her son. Danelle wanted to know why hearsay was allowed in the court trial case, too.
Contract. I worked for my brother, but sad to say, I didn't get the name, but I know how to get in touch with them if necessary.
It is necessary.
So I think we lost somebody here.
You probably should be losing a lot of people, Rich. You're not giving any fact on the case, brother. Not in your first one. And I did one on 20, and you're still on the same shit. That's a year later.
Again, is there anybody else that wants to hear and speak? I figure when we do these podcasts, we'll go 1 hour. Again, every Saturday evening at 8 p.m., we'll go 1 hour. And anybody wants to say anything, talk about anything, ask questions, I'd love to put it out there. We can really look into the facts of this case if we do it correctly. And that's what I want to make sure that we do.
Well,
I want to make sure that we do it correctly.
Rich, you have not done it yet.
Which was never done from the get-go.
And you're still not doing it, man. Are you trying to show us? These kids that I can't name, they can't even ride their bikes past there anymore. And I know Greg Davis. What the hell did you just tell us, dude? That's why you lost one person out of 5.
So, anybody at all? Okay. Well, I'd really love to know who the 3 or 4. Well, we're down to 3. I guess I'm losing the attention of some of the folks here now.
Well, Rich, people came to hear facts about a true crime case. That's what they want to hear. I could say, there's this inmate that was with Darlie at this one point on her appeal, and she had a chance to talk to Darlie out in the yard, and it's really affected her the rest of her life. But that inmate, a really good person, she was in there for theft, but that inmate said that, Darlie, she's really scared for her life. So I can't say her name, but that inmate told me, and Darlie said she did it. I can't really tell you her name, but the truth's going to come out. Different various things. I think I said too much. But based on that, I think she's guilty. That's what you sound like, man. That's what he sounds like. Giving nothing.
Sad to say. I don't know. I might not be nearly as entertaining as some of the others. If you take a look at BryanSt.John, for example. I've talked to BryanSt.John, not over the phone or anything. I have sent him an email before. I have sent him some texts and some stuff on Messenger over time. I also asked him to do a debate with me on this, as long as we can do it civilly and respectfully, because I'm not going to be trying to, BryanSt.John he's very passionate about. I'm very passionate about the case. But I don't want that bickering and those ridiculous personal attacks. It just doesn't help the situation. I do disagree with Bryan, but I will say that Bryan does make valid points in the case in some areas. The only thing that I get a little bit frustrated with Bryan about is that I feel as though that whatever the prosecution and the jurors believed and people that believed Darlie was guilty said he takes his prophecy. I'm not sure that he necessarily goes and looks at both sides of the story. I will admit there are some strange things with the case that I find very suspicious, very, very strange things, and things that I'm currently looking at through because I don't
think Rich knew that I started out as a supporter at that time, and I really didn't look at the case as much. I looked at the story, and just from the story, if you don't really look into the case, you'll hear about that insurance scam with Darren. You go, "What the fuck? That's it right there." That's what it was intended to do. And it got me there for a minute. You got me. My God, you got me, you fuckers. You duped me. I said, "No, look at it. No, he fucking did that shit." And the multiple people.
One of the biggest questions I have is on the voluntary statements that Darlie and Darren gave to the Rowlett Police Department.
There we go.
Clearly, in my opinion, I'm very familiar with those kind of statements. I know how they present them to people, and I unfortunately have had to do them before. I know how it works, and anytime you're under the scrutiny of the police, or you're under the pressure of having to deal with the police, it can be
it really is bothersome, to have to go in and write down what that intruder came into your house and did to your kids. I would be bothered by that. I'd be like, "Damn, you fucking cops. Fuckers." Yeah, they'd come over and look and I'd pull away. I'd just be bothered by the whole thing. It's none of their business, right? It's none of their business. They're not there to help solve that crime. I'd be bothered by it too. My God, if somebody comes in my house and kills my two kids, the last thing I want to do is have to write a report to the police about it so they can find out who did it. That would suck. I'd be intimidated, bothered, pissed off. I would. Fucking cops. Cops are always in your business, ain't they, Rich? They always want to know who came in your house and stabbed your two kids and killed them. They always want to know who sliced your fucking throat open. Fucking sorry bastards. To wash the fucking dishes.
It can be frightening and not pleasant.
Well, what would they have to fear? If they're writing a report, if somebody comes in your house and commits a crime, it takes the lives of your two kids and you slice your throat, why would they be frightened by the police wanting them to write that down? The only time I'm nervous Everybody, please. Because if I got something on me I ain't supposed to have, or if I got a warrant on me, or I just did something. Otherwise, they're there to help. So why would they be frightened?
And you also have to consider everything that they were going through at that time. And a lot of people don't do that. That's one thing. A lot of people don't do that. They don't stop and think about what that family had to go through on both sides, Darren and Darlie's family, what they had to go through. But, you know, I mean, and Darlie and Darren themselves, I mean, the things that they had to go through were incredible. The strain, the pressure, the emotion, the anger, the sadness, the depression of the whole thing. Things aren't going to calculate right. Things aren't going to come out right. And that has to be remembered. And it's not remembered in this case. But if you look at the volunteer statements.
Wait a minute.
From Darren.
Yeah, you went on about the statements and you started talking about pressure and stuff and how they're frightened by the cops. And they're writing a statement and they're frightened. Why would they be frightened of writing a statement? I'd be glad to write a fucking statement, detailed as I possibly could. I'd be doing anything I possibly could to find out who it was came in my house and did that to my family. I'd be glad to write a statement. It'd be a long-ass detailed statement. I need extra paper. Hell, I might need a Microsoft Word with a big screen and a fucking hard drive. I'm going to write down every fucking thing I smelled, seen, tasted, looked at, heard, all of it. It's going to be right there because that statement's going to help find that person who killed my kids. I'd be glad to do it.
Aaron and Darlie, they almost look like they were rehearsed. So I'm gonna say that. And
their statements looked like they were rehearsed. Rich, they wrote them statements themselves, brother. And they did omit a very big old thing out of that. They actually kind of lied. They got in an argument that night. We didn't find that out for 6 years after the crime. They talked about a separation that night. So let me see. I made a large chicken dinner. We had some popcorn. And then me and my husband started bickering about the bills, started bickering about the boat. And I told him that the finances were driving me nuts. And then I wanted a separation. And then he went to bed. And I laid down there. And then an intruder came in and killed my kids an hour after that. We did it like Ken Mays does. No. They omitted that. Both of them. Okay, give me just a second. I'm going to end this live real quick, but I'm going to get right back to it soon.